For this week's episode of Whitetail Cribs, we're headed to the Keystone State to tour Dan and Stacy Bayus' home. Dan is a union electrician and Stacey is a school teacher. When they're not working, you can find them hunting whitetails or with their bloodhound tracking a buck. Join along as we take a look at some of the great Ohio and Pennsylvania bucks they've tagged over the years. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button if you enjoy the episode.
The Exodus team is traveling around the United States to take a look inside the trophy rooms of some of the most interesting whitetail hunters in the country. From giant bucks, unique racks, and riveting stories, welcome to Whitetail Cribs.
Hi, welcome to our home. This is the Bayus family. I'm Stacey.
I'm Jackson.
And I'm Dan. So first, let's go take a look over here at the Christmas tree. It is Christmas. It's December, 7th right now. So Stacey does quite a bit of decorating. She really takes a lot of pride in her Christmas decorations. So here's our tree.
There's a couple special ones. There's our first Christmas, 2016. This is where hunting dreams are made. And there we, special teachers, ornaments from my students, and of course at the top, the one that's most important to our family, our faith. And here's our rowdy crew. Right here we have Remy. She's our tracking dog, our blood tracking dog. And this is Jimmy Chew. And he found us on our way home from church. He's a stray that we took in. And Tucker, who's been with our family the longest. He's my son's dog. He's 9 years old, so he's the old timer. Yes.
All right, so let's take a look over here at a couple of the sheds that we have found in the past couple years. Now this one, you guys probably, you might know who this deer is. This is a buck that was very special to me. His name is Shank. He was an Ohio buck. This is his 3-year-old shed. Later on, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at him dead. We got a couple other small ones on here, so those are just some of the different bucks that we found some sheds of. I thought that was pretty cool to share with you.
This is some reading material for Dan. Dan doesn't like to read, so I got him a book with deer in it with lots of pictures. Really into picture books. And then I've been reading a lot on tracking dogs for wounded deer and Dead On that explains a little bit more about kills and what to expect when I'm out tracking, if I think the deer's dead or not.
All right, so let's go take a look over here in the office. So in here is where I do a lot of my editing for Tyneman. If you guys have seen the show, I appreciate the likes, the follows on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Do a little bit of the work here. My man Cody does the final editing. He's the man with the plan.
My dad just gave me this. We had a really good season as a family, and it started with Shank in Ohio, and then my dad got one in PA where I grew up, and then shortly followed by my son's 8-point. So 3 generations of family tradition. Huh, bud?
Yeah.
That's where it all starts. Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead out here. We'll take a look in the kitchen. Now I know everybody wants to see the fridge. There honestly isn't nothing too special in here except for we got some deer sticks. We got some shank meat. I eat a lot of those. A couple beers. Those are actually missing because I drank them. Let's take a look out in the shop. So let's step into my garage where I do a lot of my evil scientist tinkering with different toys, different stuff. One of the things that everybody seems to be interested in, I'm going to show you guys, give you a little inside look at my hang and bang set. I run an XOP Vanish with Hawk helium sticks cut down to 24. So very essential, guys. Silence everything. One way to do that is I have stealth strips, and I got enough to probably last for like 10 different stands. I bought in bulk. I was tired of buying little bits and pieces and messing around, so I just bought a big whole bunch of them. Another thing that I do to silence my set is I run a lot of paracord on here, as you can see. I'll go ahead and show you guys some of these Hawk sticks and how I silenced them up a little bit and made them a little easier to carry around. So what I did is I had cut these sticks down to 24 inches. I wanted something a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, so that when it does pack on the stand, it doesn't go above the stand, and I'm not hitting my head off of sticks, twigs, all that stuff, and grab and hold, making a lot of noise. Another thing I decided I wanted to do is I wanted to do away with the buckles, and I had my good buddy Jim Roos, who actually makes this lock and walk harness, I decided to have him make me some straps. They're kind of like a Versa strap, not exactly, but they're probably 20 times stronger than a Versa strap, and a lot longer too. So I run those. They're quiet, they grab tight to the tree, and they're easy to pack up. No clanging, no banging. Another thing that I decided to do is obviously stealth strips. Where the contact points are, if you take a good close look at this here, I decided to go ahead and wrap paracord around so that when we do go ahead and we do place them together, they sandwich together real nice, quietly, neat, and tight. Another one of my mods that I decided to do is I do a lot of self-filming, and I have to carry a book bag in there with me, and I got probably a good 30 pounds on this thing at some points in time between my different implements that I run and all that good stuff. So I had made my own ledge. Everybody likes those Lone Wolf custom gear stands, and I was like, you know what, man, like, if they can do it, I can do it. And I did it for hillbilly cheap, less than a couple bucks. All I used to do that is a U-bolt. You can buy these at Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, real cheap. Cut it in half, or actually, I'm sorry, not in half. I cut it about 3/4 of the way down from the other side of the U. Throw a nut on there. I use shrink-on tubing. I'll probably end up changing that this year to something a little stronger. It's starting to wear through where the contact points are, but all you got to do, slide it up through here, bring it up into your V bracket that sets on the tree. You're good to go. All right, so now that we're done looking at the stand, let's go over here to where I tune bows. Now in this section of the garage is where I get a lot of my hobby work put in. I enjoyed tuning bows. I actually did this full time for a couple years, and it was my bread and butter. That was what I loved doing. That's what I made money doing. And I decided to go back to the electrical trade. I'm an electrician by trade, but I still do this stuff in the evenings, weekends, and it's my hobby work. I really enjoy tuning bows, and I strive for perfection. If that bow isn't shooting perfect and you're not shooting perfect, it's not okay. It's not tuned, and it's not tuned in. All right, so let's see how I do all my butchering. I enjoy doing all my own processing. I just use a cheap HME gambrel, lift them up right here, got a drain down on the floor there, wash it down with the hose, and one of the perks to being an electrician is that they throw a lot of stuff out on the jobs, and I picked up this stainless steel countertop from a hospital, I'm not gonna say which one, and I'm able to set a whole deer up there if I want to, and go ahead and quarter him out and do my different cuts. From there, I got a grinder that I'll set up on there, and I'll be able to grind all my meat up and get all the fixings ready to roll. All right, so now that we've seen all that, let's go take a look at what you guys came here to see. All right, so let's take a look in the shop over here. So this is where we display a lot of our deer. We actually got a few that we might go take a look at the taxidermist that from this year and one from last year. This is my wall over on this side. Stacey's got her own wall now, and we're gonna start Jackson his own wall up on that top side there. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at a couple of the bucks that I've been fortunate enough to take throughout the years. First and foremost, we gotta show you the first buck I ever took. This 10 point here I took in Ohio. He actually was a buck that I had no idea about, no cameras, no nothing. Back then, that was actually before pre-camera time. So my uncle set me up in that stand, and he was my first bow buck, my first bow deer, period, and he was really special to me. My cousin helped me get him out of the woods. Spike, props to you, thank you so much. But what I heard around the town was that Dan shot a big 10 point out of his cousin's stand, and you know what, that really ate me up. So what I did was I went out and I scouted. That was when I learned to scout on my own and set my own stand. So let's take a look at what happened the following year. The following year, I followed up with a little bit better than that 10 point. He was a 14 point. He actually probably was about a 2.5-year-old Ohio buck at the time. And you know, word went around town, man. Like I got so wrapped up into deer hunting at that point. At that point in time, that was when I decided that this is what I wanted to do and this was what I was gonna do. So then the following year after that, I followed up with my first Pope and Young. This 8 point down here on the end. That was actually a really cool buck. I shot him, it was in the evening, and he come through, he was in a funnel, and laid the smack down on him. That was pretty cool. So we'll take a look now at this particular buck here. I shot him on the ground. Here, let me give you guys a little bit of inside information. So that buck was killed on the ground. This buck over here, big 8.5-year-old buck, killed on the ground. That buck right there, spot and stalk, he was dogging a doe, trying to breed her. I killed him on the ground. Another fun-filled information, this buck right here, big old buck, one old one that we were trying to kill for a while, killed on the ground. A lot of people are scared to get down on the ground and go after these bucks. We actually, that's part of our family, the way that we hunt as our family. We go with ghillie suits a lot. Jackson, first day of Pennsylvania archery season, had an opportunity at a really big 6 point. We didn't make it happen, but kind of happy we didn't because he followed up with an even better buck. So this is my best buck to date. You guys can watch the hunt for him on YouTube or Carbon TV, wherever you want to see it at. This buck actually scored 159 6/8, just shy of 160. But he's my best buck, and I'm still shooting for that booner. Hopefully one of these days I can get him. Let's go ahead and take a look at Stacey's wall.
Hi, my wall's not as big, but I've only been back at it for about 4 years now. I hunted my whole life. Well, when I was old enough to start hunting with my dad growing up, I got back into it after college. And so the first year I was trying to archery hunt on my own. I had drove down to my dad's house, 2.5 hours down 79, and he ended up getting sick with bronchitis. So he said, hey, if you want to go out, you're more than welcome. And I did. I went out on my own, and he said, it's raining. We're having terrible wind and rain. You're probably not going to see anything. I said, well, I drove this far, so I'm going. So sure enough, about 2 hours in the stand, I shot, this was my very first buck with a bow. And yeah, I had to text my dad and say, hey, I need help. He's coughing, and I'm like, I need help dragging it out. So that was very memorable for me. Shortly after that, I do shoot compound. I just prefer to use a crossbow. So in Kentucky, you have to shoot a compound. Dan took me on a hunt in Kentucky for a velvet deer. And he's a little guy, but he's a velvet buck. And that was a compound bow that I got him with. So that was a very exciting, that was on our anniversary. That was a lovely luxury trip to Kentucky in a really awesome hotel room. So this guy, he was shortly after we got married, and that was like my wedding present right there. It was in Ohio, and he was with the Parker bow that I first started hunting with. So yeah, that's my wall, and that's not it. We have a couple that are at our taxidermist. This is the freezer we had to get because there was just not enough room in the house for all the deer meat. We've gotten 4 or 5 deer, yeah, this year, so it was just too much. And this was my PA public buck. He's ready to go to our taxidermist, and my son has a buck there now. And I have my PA deer from last year, and the biggest one to date, Shank. You'll have to check him out. We're gonna head to Devin Dixon's. Before we do that though, there is one special deer, and I wanna share that with you. My son's deer, his very first one. Jackson, come on over, buddy. Do you remember this night?
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. You wanna hold him?
Yeah.
It was a night that Dan was off chasing a big buck in Ohio, and he was actually chasing Shank. So Jackson and I weren't gonna sit around and wait, so we decided to go out to the game lands, and we were sitting on the ground because I couldn't climb with a younger kid. I think you were 8, right? 8 or 9, maybe 8. And he shot this deer. We had a little trouble tracking it, ended up stumbling upon it. The worst part though was gutting it alone. My headlamp burned out, and trying to get this deer out of there.
Oh, I remember.
You
now.
remember that?
Was it the one where we had to walk through like
Yeah,
I guess swampy area?
very swampy. Jackson had to carry my crossbow, and I'm trying to drag a buck, I don't know, 500 yards to the car, which I really didn't have a good vehicle to stuff a rigor mortis deer into, but we did it, huh, Jackson? We did it all by ourselves. And Dan pulled in just as we were putting it on the hoist. So, yeah, thanks, Dan.
Let's take a look at these deer. So first up, we're gonna show you Jackson's buck. He shot this one in Pennsylvania this year, and I was fortunate enough to be sitting with him in the stand. It was a rough hunt for us, actually. He was coughing a little bit beforehand. You remember that?
My stepdad didn't think we were going to see anything.
Yeah, so I didn't think we were gonna see any deer that day because Jackson was coughing. He had a little bit of a cold, and I kept on feeding him some water. And sure enough, this buck come walking out, and we got him on the Exodus trail camera too, video mode, and it got the shot, and it got us getting down out of the tree stand, and it was just an awesome experience for the both of us. I think I might have shook a little more than him, actually. Let's take a look at Stacey's PA buck.
So same property, actually. This was my 2018 buck, and another time I went on my own. Jackson was with Dan that night, and I went out, and all I could see was horns. He was in some very, very thick cover, and at first I thought it was a bird's wing or something flying through, and here it ended up, I just saw some white. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's a buck right there. So I waited and I waited, and I actually had to Dan had hung 2 stands. One was a filming stand, but he wasn't there, so I was able to actually get out of the tree stand that I was in and climb up into the other one because I had to get turned to make the shot, and there was no way I could shoot from the one I was in. So I got in the other stand quietly, and I waited until this deer took a couple steps down into a creek. And as soon as I had a window, I don't know, about that big, I had to take the shot. And I heard him splash around, and then it got quiet. Wasn't real sure where I hit him, but he ended up dying in the creek. So that was that one from 2018, and here is the one I think everyone's been asking about or wanting to see or see a picture of. Here he is. Here's Shank. And yeah, we had a really good rain the night that he came out. There were 2 does and a fawn that came out right before him to feed in the food plot. I'd say about 10 minutes later, I look up, and this deer, head down, he's feeding, and he's facing me, and my hands are shaking, and I was getting worried because, first of all, it was getting darker and darker, and also there was some vegetation hanging over the food plot, and he was more towards that side of the food plot, and if he would have taken too many steps, his vitals would be covered. So I knew it was gonna be quick. I was hoping he would turn while he was still in the food plot and I could still get a shot. He took 1 step broadside, and That's when I let it go, and there he is. We brought our dog Remy in on this track. That was our very first track, so it was a great night all the way around.
You don't gotta get out of here, but we are. Happy holidays, everybody.